Hello, everybody, and welcome to our second race watch along for the 2022 F1 season. We are here at the street circuit of Jeddah. Alongside me, as was the last race, is Conor Porter. So, welcome, Conor. Welcome back to the Let's Talk Sport 2022
Hello, everybody, and
race
welcome
to
our
second
I just want
race
to
watch along
ask,
for the 2022
Conor,
F1
I mean, in terms of our
season.
Mick Schumacher,
We are here at the street.
obviously we had the issue yesterday. In terms of red flags, but it's great to see. I've seen a few clips. Obviously, I haven't watched too much in terms of the introduction to the race today, but it's great to see, obviously, from the instant we had, where it was a really close one. There wasn't much like Tech Pro barrier there for safety, so it was very much you hit sort of like the concrete side of the track, but obviously went in the ambulance and went to hospital for some checks yesterday, but great to see him back at the paddock, and I think he was on the driver's parade as well, so great to see after that incident that he's back here at the circuit already today.
Yeah, it was a massive collision he had with the concrete walls that surround a lot of the track in Saudi Arabia, which caused his car to do almost a full 180 spin before it hit the other wall. And as you would imagine, his car was completely inoperative, and he was out of qualifying at that moment. Had qualified, I think, at that point for Q3, but then the rest of the Q2 went through and he slipped out of the order. And Haas has made the economical decision today to not field another car and not do an overnight job and repair Mick's car because, simply put, this, despite the money saving measures which they took last season, this is still very much a team that's low on the budget and they have to take as many savings as possible. And the savings that they've decided to do today is not to fix Mick's car in time for the race and just fix it instead for a couple of weeks' time when they race in Australia, which it looks as though Mick will be able to do so. Obviously, it takes a bit of a mental toll, a collision like that, as you would expect for anyone. But hopefully he's able to return to the track and provide some good performances for Haas. It's a big season for Mick, and given how well Magnussen's already performed in that Haas car, and now Mick is two races now without any points this season. It's a tough uphill battle, and it will hopefully it doesn't get to the point where they're starting to think if Mick's right for the seat in Formula One, because quite how talented he is, former F2 champion. This is a tough one though for Mick to go through, and it will really test him as a driver, I think, to bounce back from this and to delivering a points scoring car, which the Haas has been so far this season. So, yeah, we wish all the best to Mick, and hopefully he's able to bounce back strongly and, maybe show up in that Haas in Q3, because it looked as if it was on its way there prior to that crash, thinking about how quick he was going around as well. He looked very promising, and it's just unfortunate that the crash happened. So we'll wait and see how things go for him, but hopefully he'll be back and firing that car very quickly around the Melbourne circuit in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, please excuse if you can see on the stream, but for some reason the leaderboard had disappeared, so if it just went really large on the screen, it was just me cutting it live, so things happen as we go live, but for some reason it disappeared before we started. But just a quick mention, obviously, Conor, as well, it's not something that I've seen, and you've just mentioned to me before we went live, but Yuki Tsunoda is another one that won't be starting the race today. Had an issue in qualifying, and as you say, it looks maybe like that's continued for the start of the race as well.
Yeah, unfortunately for Yuki, it looks as though he has been a victim of the ongoing issues for all Red Bull-powered cars. Of course, we had it in the first race in Bahrain, Pierre Gasly's car catching fire. We also had the two Red Bulls of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez failing later on in the race itself. And now it looks as though Yuki's unfortunately had the same sort of issues with his car. Just from the images and the radio messages that I've heard, it looks as though Yuki's engine has fortunately been unable to fire. So as he was making his way around the circuit towards the formation of the grid, he was unable to make it all the way around and went off to a runoff area and parked his car up. And the engineers told him, Yuki, that's the end. Thank you. You can jump out. And unfortunately, that's the end of Yuki's race. today. So, yeah, another back foot there for AlphaTauri after only having one car score points last week. It looks as though they're going to have the maximum of only one scoring this week. Although this is the overarching message of this is that it looks as though the Red Bull powered cars, in terms of reliability, those issues are continuing on from what we had last week in Bahrain, which leaves into question how long can Perez and Max and Gasly survive out there today with their cars, shall we say, going forward. It could be a difficult race for them once more, but hopefully not. Hopefully this is just an issue with Yuki's car, and hopefully Gasly and Verstappen and Perez will be able to get some points on the board today for their respective teams.
Yeah, because how much is that a worry for the Red Bull team? Obviously, they had, like we say, the double DNF last week, a few laps to go before the end of the race. But obviously, again, doing well in terms of qualifying. Obviously, a little bit disappointing for Max Verstappen. I think he was hoping that he would be on pole, but only managed, fourth in terms of qualifying. But of course, we know he can make it count in the race. But obviously, Sergio Perez, first pole position of his career as well. Great result from Sergio Perez, and I expect Jamie enjoyed that doing the watch along qualifying yesterday. But how much is that a worry then? Is that in the back of their mind, Conor? Do you think both Red Bull drivers, as much as Sergio Perez will be happy he's got on pole position, is there always that thing in the back of their mind maybe that they're thinking, is this power unit going to last the rest of the race? Or?
Well, I think with any regulation, it's always the thinking in the back of all the minds of the drivers. How reliable will the cars be throughout the race? They'll have the utmost confidence in their engineers and in their teams that they can do it, but when we've already had past examples of cars unfortunately breaking down, then that thought might be there. I imagine though for Perez, he'll be very confident being in pole position today, first ever pole position in Formula One. Actually, I was listening to a podcast prior to today's race, and they said the last pole position that Perez had was in his final F2 race before he made the jump up to F1 all those years ago. Wow. So it's been a long time coming for Perez. I think they said it was 11 years, which is quite funny given that he's a car number 11 on the grid. And of course, it'll be interesting to see if he's able to capitalize on that and get another race win for the Red Bull, and in essence, grab the opportunity, grab the ball by two horns, and run with it. But it's already looking like quite a unique weekend because of just the mix up on the grid that we've got, with Lewis Hamilton being as low down in the years, and with so many different things that have happened, such as Yuki and Mick with their unfortunate circumstances. Daniel Ricciardo taking a grid penalty due to impeding Ocon yesterday, and of course Sergio Perez being in first and Max Verstappen being behind the two behind the two Ferraris in fourth. So yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting race.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see, Conor, as you were mentioning that, because they were bringing up the starting grid, and I'll just go through that quickly in a minute, but it said next to Carlos Sainz's name that he was starting from the pit lane, which seems a bit weird because he's third on the grid, but I'll just go through the running order and see if I can see both Ferraris on the actual grid start. But Sergio Perez, as we said, first pole position in his Formula One career. He starts at the front. Charles Leclerc starts in second place. We've got Carlos Sainz, his teammate, in third, but we'll just check that to see if that was an error on their screen. Max Verstappen starts fourth. Esteban Ocon, great result for him in qualifying in the Alpine. He starts fifth. George Russell, Mercedes is woes continue. They've only managed to get sixth place for George Russell, worse for his teammate, but we'll get to that in a second. Fernando Alonso again for Alpine, good result, seventh place he starts. Valtteri Bottas in eighth, again keeping his Q3 record going in qualifying. Pierre Gasly is ninth. We've got Kevin Magnussen in the Haas in 10th. Lando Norris is 11th. Zhou Guanyu is in 12th place. Lance Stroll 13th. Daniel Ricciardo 14th. He suffered a grid penalty for obstructing Esteban Ocon in qualifying. We've got Lewis Hamilton 15th. Really difficult result for Lewis Hamilton yesterday, but he did sort of blame himself for setup changes, so hopefully he can make some progress in the race. We've got Alex Albon in 16th. Nico Hulkenberg again is taking place instead of Sebastian Vettel. He didn't manage to get a negative COVID test back in time, so Nico Hulkenberg stepping in again this weekend for him. Nicholas Latifi is 18th, and as Conor mentioned, Yuki Tsunoda is not starting this race, and Mick Schumacher, of course, is not starting after his crash in qualifying yesterday. Conor.
So I was going to mention two things basically. So the good news is just for everyone to update on Mick. You know, he did come back to the track earlier today and did some interviews, as he said, and he is currently in the back of the Haas garage with engineers watching the race. So that's a very promising sign. You know, that he's very well physically and mentally as well. So that's a good sign for going forward to Australia in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well, Carlos Sainz, the situation with his car, he had a wiring component change, I think, in his car. Now, when it comes to those kind of changes on the Parc Ferme, so long as the components are like for like, you can do that without any sort of grid penalty with those kind of components.
Okay.
And I think that's what situation that's gone through. So I think that starting from the pit lane situation, I don't think that's correct, but they're currently on their formation lap going round. Being led, of course, by the pole position man, Sergio Perez. Mm-hmm. We'll just wait and see if Carlos peels off near the end of the formation lap into the pit lane. Yeah. But I don't think he will, because I think of those regulations, you know, it's pretty much the like for like components. So
yeah, I think it would be very harsh if he has to start from the pit lane for that. But as you say, we will keep.
If it was like an engine component, for example, then that's different. Then you would have to start from the pit lane. But like for like components of just like a little bit of wiring, you know, it's not something that usually sees a car starting from the pit lane. But yeah, just going around now. Perez leading the way, Carlos and Charles following behind, and Max is there too, and Sergio already crawling around that.
I can say a lot of them are hanging back, aren't they? I mean, the front runners then were quite far away from the rest of the field then, but obviously they want to close up as much as possible because they don't want to be sitting on the grid for too long, because they will start to lose tyre and brake temperature. So it is very much trying to hold the rest of these up now. Let's just keep an eye on Carlos Sainz, but I would be surprised if he did go off into the pit lane, but I think he's staying in. I think he's staying on the grid.
He's already gone past the pit entrance.
Yeah.
Obviously, another big one to watch today is Lewis Hamilton all the way down in 15th.
Yeah. Surprise, Conor, for you? Or we know Mercedes are having issues, but George Russell managing 6.
Yeah, it is a bit of a surprise to see Lewis all the way down there, but I've got the confidence that Lewis can like climb through the field. You know, think back to Brazil, him climbing through all the way from 20th to get into the top 10. And then going on to in the sprint race that was, and then going on to win the actual race itself on the next day. So got confidence in him. He's actually starting on the hard tyres, which of course they had problems with last week in Bahrain. But funnily enough, this week a lot of teams have gone on a different strategy when it comes to just adding a bit of wear to those hard tyres, rubbing them in a little bit rather than going out on them fresh and brand new, and that, in essence, it just allows them to warm up a bit quicker, gain a bit traction, and as a result, gain a bit of heat. But they're all on the grid now. Safety cars in position, and the lights are coming on.
Yeah, so here we go. 5 red lights are there. Lights are out. Let's see how Sergio Perez gets on. He defends. Looks like he defends for Charles Leclerc. Good manoeuvre. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, they're fighting as well, but it looks a little bit easy. Max Verstappen trying to go around the outside of Carlos Sainz. I think he has done just that. So he's back up to 3rd place, or he's up to 3rd place, should I say. Looks like Esteban Ocon is still holding back George Russell. Fernando Alonso is trying to go for him as well. Looks like Zhou Guanyu is at the back of the grid there. Not sure what happened there. But everything else looks a little bit neat and tidy. Kevin Magnussen trying to go around the outside of Pierre Gasly. Ooh, Kevin Magnussen just manages to get past. But Conor, crucially for Sergio Perez, he still stays in the lead.
Yeah, Perez stays in the lead. Great start as well for Max Verstappen up into 3rd. Good start as well, I think, as you said, for... I think it was Carlos, I think that was Carlos that did slip back into 4th. But yeah, good start for Charles to battle with Perez whilst also keeping at bay Max and Carlos as now they go through the sector 3 bits. And as you said, Zhou Guanyu sliding down the order from the start. It looked as though he was quite away from everyone. And I'm not too sure what happened there. because we really didn't see much of him on the broadcast. But a bit unfortunate there for the Chinese driver.
Yeah. I mean, good start so far for Esteban Ocon. He's still staying in that 5th place. George Russell trying to put pressure on him, but Ocon's teammate Alonso is also trying to put pressure on there. As Lewis Hamilton is still around about 14th place, so he's not made up too much progress so far. He's got Daniel Ricciardo up in front of him as well. DRS won't be activated until the next lap as well, so it'll be very much just trying to stick with the car in front to see if they can gain that momentum. Looks like Lando Norris is trying to make an overtake on Pierre Gasly. He looks like he's going around the inside of Pierre Gasly. Great manoeuvre from the McLaren. He makes it stick. So Lando Norris is up into 10th position. Looks like Zhou Guanyu is up into 17th. But great manoeuvre there from Lando Norris around the inside of Pierre Gasly there, Conor.
Yeah, and it's such a huge weekend for the overall McLaren team. You know, they want to try and score some points after what was a bit of a weekend to forget in Bahrain, where Lando only managed to finish 15th, Daniel Ricciardo finishing in 14th. Of course, Ricciardo's had the grid penalty today, and he's got a lot of work to do to make up for that. And Lando's leading the way in that aspect, already back into the points. All the drivers, pretty much, a lot of them are on the medium tire, except for just a handful of them on the hard compounds.
Magnussen, Hamilton, and Hulkenberg are all on hard compound tires.
Yeah, so in terms of strategy, it could go two different ways with the medium compounds. You could do the 2 stops, going from medium to hard to medium. We don't expect any driver to go onto the soft compound because, unfortunately, it looks as though the tire just degrades too quickly for a soft stint to really pay off. Mm-hmm. So we were expecting, medium to hard. So it could be a 1 stop to a medium to hard, or 2 stops medium hard and then back onto medium to try and gain that pace once more near the end of the race. Or for guys like Hamilton, who's on the hard tire, they'll go onto a long stint on that hard tire, really drag it out, and then switch to mediums near the end and try and get those fired up for those final few places to really make amends of the poor qualifying position for him. And I think that will be a good strategy for him because, we know how good Lewis Hamilton can be when it comes to managing tires. He's one of the best out there. And I think it will pay off for him today, but he's got a lot of work to do on these opening laps to try and overtake some of these guys that are on the quicker medium tires and not let them get too far away from them before they go in for their pit stops, which, just looking at the strategy guides for the race, one strategy says between 15 and 20 laps. The other strategy says, the 2-stop strategy says between 13 and 18. So around that 12 lap mark, we could potentially see some drivers come in for their first stops in the race.
Yeah, definitely something to look at. In terms of Zhou Guanyu, it looked like he had a bit of a issue at the start, a bit like what Valtteri Bottas had in Bahrain. So something similar with the sister car there for Alfa Romeo, but then looked like it went into anti-stall after a little bit of a touch with Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. So difficult start for Zhou Guanyu, but has made up an extra place now, overtaking Nicholas Latifi, who I didn't mention either, Conor, in terms of qualifying. He also had an incident yesterday, which saw a red flag. Obviously not the same as Mick Schumacher. It looks like George Russell making that manoeuvre on Esteban Ocon, but of course the DRS will be activated, so will Ocon have another go?
I think George was in front of George was in Ocon, was in front of George before the DRS activation point. So George got it on that straight, and he just managed to make it pay off because Ocon was close in speed. Oh, McLaren's gone off, cut the corner there in front of Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris there. Be interested to see if anything comes of that. But at the moment, they're still ahead, as now it looks as though Lewis is trying to make a move on Daniel Ricciardo, trying to jump up into 13th. So Lewis is making some good moves, but still only down in 14th, as you said. But his counterpart, his teammate in George Russell, is jumping up into 5th and looking to try and close up that gap onto the Ferraris and the Red Bulls at the top of the list when it comes to the race itself. Hamilton saying no grip on the tire. We already talked about the rubbing in of the hard tire. It takes a couple of laps for it to happen. Maybe this is when it'll start to fire. So that could have been a bit of an old radio message there for Lewis.
Yeah, he looks closer this lap, doesn't he?
He does. He already tried to make that move on Ricciardo not too long ago, so I don't think that radio message was current. I think that was maybe a lap and a half ago. But he's making some good moves here, and they're following him quite nicely. through the track. It's just a case now as to, are they able to make some moves when those DRS zones open up, or are we going to see, more DRS trains for what we saw in the past? Maybe it's a bit of Gasly making a move there on Lando before the final corner. Yeah, but it's
interesting who gets the DRS zone there, Connor. Has Lando Norris done that strategically? If he knew he was going to overtake that, but Alpine, that was pretty close between Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso there. I think the dust on the dirty side of the track didn't help that, but not what the team will want, considering they're still in the top 10, both drivers.
Yeah. Do you see Otmar shaking his head then? He did not want that to happen. He wants these guys to not be battling, make sure they get some points on the board, and stay ahead of the rest of the midfield. So, it'd be interesting to see how things play out between Ocon and Alonso. But the longer those two battle, the more than likely George Russell just keeps on picking up clean air and doesn't have to battle against them. So, just saw a replay there of it. Now, I'm pretty certain Ocon wasn't brake testing Alonso there, but, Alonso saw a gap, went for it, and I'm not too sure if Ocon moved in the brake zone. I think it was just before the brake zone there.
A little close, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that'll be discussed and shown as well, a lockup there. I think that is...
is that Joe Guan Yu? Possibly?
I think that might have been Joe, because he was battling with Albon. So, a bit of a lockup there for Joe on the first corner.
What if you're Otmar Safnauer, Conor, if you're the team boss at Alpine and they're still pretty close, Fernando Alonso is the car behind, but obviously Esteban Ocon looked better in qualifying. Are you letting these guys race, or what's going on? It's a little bit too early, obviously lap 6, but I mean obviously you both want both cars to stay in the points here.
Yeah, you got to let them race, but be wary that, you give space to your teammate. You're on the team. We want both of you to score points, but Alonso's going for another move here. Ocon staying on the side, but he's coming over to defend once more, moving a little bit in the braking zone there. I'm not too certain if Alonso's going to be happy about that, but he's got the better exit out of turn 2, and now right on the back end of Ocon before they go towards turn 4, and Ocon's defending on that near corner, very slow out of that exit as well, and Alonso's got the better trajectory, but now the speed's paying through dividends for Ocon as they go through the bit of a slalom on the Saudi Arabia circuit. So it looks as though at some point Alonso is going to make a move on Ocon.
I was going to say, Conor, but they're wasting time, aren't they? The more time they slow down to defend each other, the teams behind are catching up. George Russell is getting away. It's not really what the team wants. So is it just a case of fine if Alonso looks like he's quicker, let him go past for the time being? But they can't afford to keep defending because Bottas is catching them here.
Yeah, Bottas is loving the battle between the two pink cars in front of him. The longer that goes on, the more likely, as you said, he is going to catch up. And as now we go towards the final turn on the track, really, or you get these slalom turns, which aren't really turns because the drivers hardly move the steering wheel. But they're approaching this DRS checkpoint, basically the activation point, and it'll determine, who gets that DRS on that start-finish straight. Alonso is behind Ocon.
Very close again.
And, so Alonso is going to get it once more. So we get to watch these two battle it out for the third time already in this race. We're only on lap 7. Alonso's got the DRS open. He's trailing Ocon. Ocon's charging his ERS. And Alonso has done the maneuver. It's ahead of him, but they're going close as they go through turn 2. Ocon stays behind. Alonso gets the job done. But that was very close between the two cars. And now Alonso's charging his ERS there. The lights flashing on the back of the car indicates that the electrical recovery unit system is recharging. Good move there by Alonso, but it was very close between the two cars once more going through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think Esteban Ocon would I thought that maybe they would concede, but Ocon again trying to go around the outside as Alonso took the inside line. But again, Alonso just sort of squeezing him a little bit like Ocon did a couple of laps ago. So that's Alonso going, right, you want to do that? I can do that as well. But obviously both of them, great respect, not colliding, because obviously that's not what the team, want in terms of this. But going back to the race lead, Conor, Sergio Perez still leading 2.5 seconds almost from Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, he's getting a good gap for him, which will be good when it comes to deciding what kind of strategy they want to go on with these medium tyres later on in the race. Can Perez, with the gap, can he manage the tyres and extend the stint long enough to potentially do a one-stop and go onto the hards? Or will Charles be able to recover that gap and force Perez into a little bit of battle, in which case they'll think about maybe going 2 stops to try and catch out the Ferraris and get the first win of the season. But yeah, Perez making some good pace, getting ahead of Charles. And now here we go. We're going back to the pink cars, back to the Alpines. There's Ocon now taking a lunge there into turn 1 off the road. So he's going to have to give that position back to Alonso. And crucially, as we just mentioned, Bottas is right behind them. So this battle between the 2 Alpines has not paid off for the team whatsoever, because they've opened the door wide open for the Finn to come through. And you can see the disappointment there in the garage of the Alpine, you know, heads last rested on their hands there. Not good. You wouldn't say team order so early on into the season, Jack, but it's getting to that point. It's like, right, guys, you know, we need to settle down here. We'll put you on different strategies and, you know, we'll go from there. But we can't be having this battle, because otherwise we're going to lose out to Bottas, who's sitting right behind us.
It sounds silly, but somehow you're going to have to split them, because having them on track at the minute is a little bit too feisty. They've lost 4 seconds to George Russell in 5th place. Valtteri Bottas has closed by about 3 seconds. Kevin Magnussen is catching up to him as well. But again,
it looked as though Ocon was looking for a move there on Alonso going through the slalom, and Bottas is right there as a result as well.
Yeah,
here we go.
That was the swap. I think that was the swap, Conor, from the beginning of the lap. Obviously, when Ocon went a bit too wide, so they've swapped over. But yeah, that was almost a chance of Bottas there to take the 2 of them.
Yeah, they're both charging the ERS now, but that was a really strange place to do it, because I'm sure they had a tactical reason as to why to do it there and not, you know, say on a straight or whatnot, or, you know, give one of them DRS as they came through. But it was so odd. Alonso is actually still behind Ocon. No, he isn't. Ocon's defending against Bottas into turn 1.
Here comes Kevin Magnussen as well.
I mean, this is the kind of battles that we wanted from these new regulations. Close battling. Haas, Alpha and Alpine all there. Otmar's talking on the team radio now.
Yeah, he said they haven't said anything to the pair of them yet, but I think it's only a matter of time. Because as you say, you know, Valtteri Bottas is trying to make a move on the 2 Alpines. Kevin Magnussen is very much closed up to this pack as well. So, you know, this is both of these cars actually thinking, well, we might just get these 2 places because both of them will take each other out in a minute. So as much as we want to make that manoeuvre, maybe wait a few laps, because these 2 Alpine drivers are very feisty tonight. I don't know what they've had to eat before going out tonight, but...
Alonso Ocon went very deep into that first corner and just couldn't find the traction to get around it, and had to give the position back to Alonso as a result for the illegal overtake and the corner cutting. But yeah, the longer this battle goes on, the door opens wider for Bottas and Magnussen behind. And interestingly enough, Magnussen right involved in this battle on the hard tyres as well. So this will benefit Magnussen more than what it would for Bottas. But, you know, Bottas will take advantage of whatever is provided for him. And then Magnussen will take advantage as the guys go into the pit stops later on and earlier in the race due to the battle in between them. But it looks as though Alonso's got a bit of a gap now between him and Ocon as they go around the first 2 corners once more. Charles Leclerc radio message pops up on the screen.
The Ferrari team are saying that their tyre degradation is better than what they're seeing at Red Bull. So they're saying obviously Red Bull could be the ones to make the stop first. Lewis Hamilton manoeuvre here.
Is that then Perez pushing too hard then and getting this gap already too early in the race? Or do you think that is Max potentially pushing too hard and not being able to get the overtake done on Leclerc, because they're kind of like the same difference in timings between the two. You know, it's two and a bit seconds between Perez and Leclerc, 2 and a bit seconds between Verstappen and Leclerc, whereas Sainz is all the way at like over 3 seconds behind Verstappen, so he's not really involved in that battle. So now Perez on the start-finish straight, but you're looking at the times between Perez and Leclerc there. Perez is losing time to Charles in sectors 2 and 3, but Perez has got the advantage still in sector 1. So, and there's the first indication of a 2-stop strategy with the pit window popping up now as we approach lap 11, lap 12. The current tyre ages there. A lot of the guys do have fresh tyres on, not using the ones that they qualified on. Of course, they qualified on the softs in Q2 and in Q3 and in Q1. Of course, the new rules this season means that the drivers do not have to, as we have a battle there between Bottas and Magnussen. Bottas still retains his position in 8th, Magnussen in 9th.
Magnussen had to go off the road a little bit there. It'd be nice to see a replay of that, because obviously we were looking at a 4-car battle between the two Alpines, but they look like they've been told off and are not overtaking each other at the minute, and they've pulled away from Bottas and Magnussen. Let's just take a look. So Kevin Magnussen has DRS on the main straight, goes to the outside line going into turn 1, but becomes the inside for turn 2. But yeah, just couldn't make that there. Bottas went around the corner. Is that a little bit of a cut from Bottas? I wouldn't really say so. There was probably enough room, but
no, because there's enough room on the track for 2 cars to go around that corner. I think side by side, we saw it earlier on in the race with the 2 Alpines. So I think it's a case of Magnussen overcooking it a little bit and not getting the traction to brake hard enough to take the corner. I think so.
Yeah.
There's nothing, no real fault from Bottas there, as now Hamilton's closing up there on Lando Norris, but it's just not got enough the speed going through. Although with the trailing of these cars, with the regulations, the quickness of the circuit as well, we might see Hamilton now trying to take the move on him as they approach the final bit, and yet Hamilton's got the job done on the inside, clean through there with the hard tires, and potentially maybe he's got DRS. I'm not too sure where the activation points is. Oh no, Lando's got it.
Norris got it.
It is. I think they did move the line from.
Ooh. Is that Ocon again going wide? They're fighting again, Conor.
Oh dear. Otmar's going to be very angry on the team radio there. He, as we said, the longer these two battle it out, the more the door opens for Bottas and Magnussen to get involved.
They've literally just created a gap between Bottas and Magnussen, and then they think, oh, well, we've got a 2-second gap, let's fight again.
It's counterproductive because it just opens the door. But yeah, I think they moved the DRS zone on Sector 3 for the start-finish straight because of what happened between Verstappen and Hamilton in the race last season. I think they moved it to after the final corner rather than before the final corner. And that's why Lando had it against Norris, unless he got the job done before the DRS line. I'm trying to see where it is on the track. I think it was there on the final. Yeah, it's just before.
Yeah,
it has been moved forward, but not around the corner where it was last season. So Lando was just behind Hamilton before they crossed that line. So we got it as a result.
And what are we saying in terms of Alpine here? I mean, this is obviously a great battle, great TV coverage, Conor, because to be fair, we've not really seen the front 4. So they're getting a lot of coverage here at Alpine for the sponsors. But yeah, I think it's going to come to a point. We've got Esteban Ocon again with DRS here. I don't think he's close enough this time around, maybe for a manoeuvre. No, he's just holding back this time around. But it may be ready for another go on the next lap. We can see Bottas has closed up slightly to the pack. I think Kevin Magnussen's just slipped away a little. But again, George Russell, he's a little bit away from Carlos Sainz in 4th place, but he is sitting pretty really in that 5th position because these two keep fighting each other in 6th and 7th.
Yeah, it looks like George is in a bit of a race of his own in 5th position. He's not really got any gap he's not closed the gap up to Sainz. I think those gaps are accurate per driver, not per race leader. That would be true. So he's 11 seconds behind Sainz there. 5-second penalty for Zhou for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. So at the moment, before his pit stop, that would move Zhou down into. Well, it doesn't really matter because you have to serve the pit stop anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, Zhou will have a 5-second penalty in the pit stop as a result of that. But yeah, someone like George on the medium tyres at the moment, given where he is, he can start to think about maybe going one stop in this race to try and take advantage of the guys that are really burning out their tyres in competitive track placement situations, and look to jump them when they go in for the pit stops. But we'll just pull the headphones out there. Yeah,
I was just going to say, quick message,
well.
Conor. Esteban Ocon's been told to hold position, but it looks like Bottas might have a manoeuvre on Esteban Ocon here.
Mm.
And has done so. So
yeah,
he was told half a lap ago, as we were going into the final sector, to hold position against Fernando Alonso. But what that's basically done is allowed Bottas to overtake Ocon, because Ocon didn't have that DRS detection enough of a gap for Fernando Alonso. So yeah, that's seen Alpine lose that position, and we knew that was coming, Conor, because they were still allowing allow them two cars to fight, really, as we see Lance Stroll, the first car in, with the Williams of Albon as well.
Yeah, I think I don't think they were expecting Ocon to hold up that much to allow Bottas to come through, but that's what's happened, and he's lost the position as a result. Hamilton as well, overtaking Pierre Gasly to get into the points as well. So a good drive from Hamilton so far on those hard tyres. Will be going long into the race on those hard tyres, I imagine, with the one-stop strategy for him, whereas some of these early pit stoppers, lap 13 we're on here. So according to the strategy guide, that would say a potential two-stop race for Stroll and Albon as they go onto hard tyres and maybe push towards looking at, say, another stint on the medium tyres later on in the race itself. Or, maybe they could go to softs and try and stretch out these hards as long as possible. But as we already mentioned, the tyre degradation for the soft tyres has not been great throughout the entire race weekend. And as a result of that, we've seen a lot of guys push onto the medium tyres instead. But yeah, current strategy at the moment, looking like some of the guys may look to go onto the one stop, but Stroll and Albon already pitting onto the hard tyres, so maybe a two stop for those. But it could be a mix up. We're in that crossover in the zone now between the two strategies. As Ocon now goes through the slalom section, chasing Bottas after losing position to him. Got a team radio from him.
It's definitely something to look at, Conor, in the next couple of laps or so, because Ferrari are in discussion with Leclerc, and Leclerc's asking whether the undercut is on, because he's closed the gap to about 1.6 seconds. So it's something to keep an eye on. If Red Bull don't pit, Ferrari might do so here and try and get that box.
So if Leclerc pits here, if he's talking about an undercut, surely he must be thinking about going on to medium tyres then, because the hards, we've already seen this season, they can't be pushed too hard early on.
Oh, Perez is gone in.
Perez is pitted. Charles Leclerc goes into the first position of the race. So Perez pits, a bit of a false one maybe for Ferrari there.
Have they dudded Ferrari?
Try and cause the jump on Perez. So Perez goes onto the hard tyres, and Charles goes into the lead of the race. So we'll wait and see what Charles does on the next few laps, on the next lap specifically, if he does pit in after that in a response to Perez. But Perez comes back out behind George Russell into fifth position with a pit stop already done, onto the hard compounds as well, and looking to chase up on George Russell, who's on those older medium tyres.
So is this a two-stop, Conor? Do you think, going from hards and then going on to mediums? Because it is a bit of a long stint on the hard compound tyre. We know it can go a long stint, but yeah, this would be a long race for Perez. We know he's good on his tyres, but yeah, we're thinking...
Ooh! Sparks flying there from the pit stop.
Also a yellow flag, Conor, sector 3. Oh, that's Nicholas Latifi again!
And that could be a red flag situation, given the position of that car in that final corner. It's definitely going to be a safety car, I imagine. Lots of debris there too.
He might be able to get it in the back. There's a section there. They might be able to pull the car away slightly.
Yeah, but it's not got any wheels on it. It's lost its wheel, hasn't it? The front right. Yeah. So it's definitely going to be a safety car.
Virtual safety car.
Will it get upgraded to a full safety car, given the position on the track and how much debris is there?
Does this give a couple of other people? I was going to say, this will see the others with virtual safety car. Verstappen will be coming in.
Yeah, I think I've just saw a Ferrari there go past, not pitted. Both teams have their pits crews out. Ferrari is coming in. We can't see who it is because we're in the helmet cam of Latifi. Both Ferraris are in the pits. Double stack for Ferrari, as Verstappen is very slow to come out the pits there, out of his box, so it might have been down to tyre grip. But both Ferraris are pitted. Both Ferraris on the hard tyre compound as well. Max is on the
Perez is going to lose this position
too. and Perez has lost position to both Ferraris and Verstappen as a result of the safety car. Full-blown safety car out now as well.
Wow.
So capitalized on position there from both Ferraris and Max Verstappen on Perez. Really unfortunate there for Perez that he pitted a lap before the incident with Latifi. George Russell comes in as well, as Alonso. Bottas is in as well. A lot of the guys are going on to the hard compounds to initially begin with. It'll be interesting to see if anyone of them comes in later on in this race for a second pit stop onto another set of mediums. But Zhou's in, Norris is in, everyone's coming in now, Jack. Everyone's coming into the pit stop, taking advantage of the slow delta due to the safety car. And it looks as though Perez has pitted a lap early.
Yeah, very gutting for Perez because he's been looking good. A little comfortable position between him and Leclerc, but absolutely gutting that you just pit just at the wrong time. A lap later, we see Nicholas Latifi go into the wall, cause a virtual safety car, and I know we're a full safety car now, but virtual safety car, you're going, I think, 40% at less speed compared to the other drivers, so it's quicker actually to have a pit stop. To be honest, you're quicker in the pit lane, but that's Nicholas Latifi just losing it there. I think he puts the power on a bit too early, but that's not going to do Nicholas Latifi's confidence any good, considering is that the same place he had the accident yesterday? I don't think so. But not good. And obviously the mechanics are a little bit gutted, Conor, because they fixed it last night and now they're going to fix it again.
Yeah, it's not the same spot as yesterday because in yesterday's footage, he had an initial hit on one side and it caused the car to do a 180 and then crash into another wall. Yeah. I'm not too certain where it was, but it's not the same spot. Perez, interesting enough, watching on the timesheets, he's ahead of Sainz, so he might have just managed to get around the circuit as Sainz was held up by that slow release of Max. I don't think it was intentional, though. I think it was just down to tyre grip in the pit box. But Perez losing out to Charles and Max, but crucially getting ahead of Sainz, which will then pay benefit for Max as he has one less Ferrari to defend against and can push onto Charles, who are both on sets of new fresh tyres once the restarts get underway. Corner. Yeah, it's the last corner there, so it's going to take a bit of time to clear that debris as we'll see how close the marshals are there to the cars as they come around, and the cars have yet to bunch up as either. I don't think they'll be allowed to properly bunch up until I think that's a crane or some sort of tractor to remove the car from the track because of the fact that it's only got 3 wheels. But Latifi looked fine in the car. We're just watching another replay of the slow release from the Red Bull crew as Max came back out to block Carlos as he was going in for his pit stop. And that could have slowed down the Ferraris a little bit when it came to making sure that Sainz was brought back into the racetrack ahead of Perez. And they're just talking about it on the coverage. I couldn't quite catch what they said, but I imagine Ferrari and Carlos would be pretty annoyed given that it allowed Perez to at least gain one position back.
Yeah, see there, Perez.
Team radio. They're saying potentially Perez may have overtaken Carlos illegally because he was already out of the pit lane exit and then cut him off as he was coming out. I'm not too sure. It could go either way, really, in that sort of decision. It's very close. Zhou Guanyu with his pit stop.
This is 5 seconds, wasn't it?
It's 5 second penalty. A perfect time to serve the penalty as well under the safety car.
The jack.
Oh, yeah, and then the failure of the jack at the front there. So he did. Obviously, that would have been very, very unfortunate if it was in, racing conditions, real-time racing conditions. But under the safety car, it's not as big a penalty as what it might have been. Still out ahead of Stroll and Albon, who, of course, pitted earlier in the race. So he still managed to take advantage of them, but couldn't capitalise on it more than what he would have liked to, given that he had to serve the 5 second penalty as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's just go through with us still under the safety car. Let's just go through the running order then, because some teams and some drivers have made their pit stops. Some are still on the hard compound tyres. So Charles Leclerc is leading the race now after Sergio Perez came in a lap earlier, and obviously Nicholas Latifi had his incident, virtual safety car, and now full safety car. But other drivers have been able to capitalise. So Leclerc is now leading. Max Verstappen is second. Sergio Perez is in third place now with Carlos Sainz fourth. But they are talking about a possible for Ferrari putting in a protest against the fact that he came in, and obviously the issues that came out as Carlos Sainz came out of the pit lane, and Perez, Sainz is saying he was ahead. Perez obviously saying the same thing as well, so we'll keep an eye out on that, see if anything changes. George Russell's in 5th position at the moment. Kevin Magnussen's 6th. He hasn't pitted yet. Lewis Hamilton is up to 7th place now. He hasn't pitted either, because both Magnussen and Hamilton are on a hard compound tyre from the beginning. Fernando Alonso is in 8th. We've got Nico Hulkenberg is the other one that hasn't pitted so far. He's up to 9th position. Valtteri Bottas 10th. Ocon 11th. Daniel Ricciardo make up some places as well. He's in 12th. Norris 13th. Pierre Gasly is 14th. Zhou Guanyu is 15th. He's not been helped by that 5-second penalty and then the issue with the jack we've had. Race controller noting that incident between Sainz and Perez, so we'll see if anything comes of that. And then we've got Lance Stroll 16th. Alex Albon 17th. And of course we've lost Nicholas Latifi now on lap 15 after that incident, and Yuki Tsunoda did not start the race. And of course we had Mick Schumacher, who had his incident yesterday and wasn't going to start the race at all anyway. So here we are, lap 19, still under the safety car. I'm just going to have a look at see if anybody's put anything in the chat. We've had 196 votes on who will win the Grand Prix. Conor, have you put a vote in there yet? Can we get maybe a prediction on that?
Guess who I voted for? The man that I've been backing since the beginning of the season.
Is this Charles Leclerc?
It is the Monegasque. I have backed him to win this race, and it's looking like it's paying off.
It's looking good so far. Yeah, it's looking good so far.
Good.
But of course, keep putting your votes in. We'll probably end that about halfway through the race. If there are any points in the chat, then obviously let us know as well. Martin has gone, do you think the Red Bulls are going to last? Well, that is something obviously we discussed just before the race. It's obviously something that I think, like we say, all teams are going to be worried about whether the car is going to finish or not. But obviously Yuki Tsunoda not even starting the race and them having a Red Bull powertrain, is obviously something to keep note of, but no instance so far. But of course, it was a surprise considering we were only 3 laps before the end of the race last time out. So yeah, something to keep an eye out. But Sainz is still not happy in terms of this incident with the pit lane.
Yeah, I'm just going to have a quick look on the live lap by lap on the see if the radio message just popped up there. But yeah, incident potentially involving infringement between Perez and Carlos on that pit exit. And it looks as though Perez passed Carlos with under the safety car, which means that would have been a legal pass, and that would incur. I don't know if he would be allowed to just say, okay, you have to give position back. I don't know if that would be acceptable. I think they would have to give him a time penalty as a result of that, because it would be unsafe, I think, to move the cars around under the safety conditions. Although, they could do that, but then Ferrari would argue, well, we've lost time as a result of that. We've not lost position, we've lost time. Safety car is ending. It's coming in this lap, so we're about to go racing once more. As the cars go through, I think that's still sector 1, sector 2, maybe. Safety car there going through.
So they're saying they've got a couple of still photographs in the commentary box, and it looks like that Carlos Sainz was half a meter ahead. So if obviously, and the race director and obviously the stewards should have that information, then should be something coming this way in terms of either letting Perez let Sainz by or giving Perez a time penalty. But yeah, it will be interesting to see, to keep an eye on. As Conor mentions, the safety car is ending this lap, so on lap 20, so Charles Leclerc will be the one that is now taking the pace of the race. And Conor, if you're Charles Leclerc, you don't want to be doing this too early because of such a long straight here in Saudi Arabia down to turn 1, so we want to do it as late as possible to start this race again.
Yeah, didn't we have a safety car last week? He had a great start on that safety car, I think, or he's backing up the pack already.
Yeah.
Even before we get to that final big bend, so right before there's still a little bit of a straight here to go through before we get to that big bend. Of course, we remember last year what happened when a car suddenly stopped in this part of the track.
Yeah, and look at Max Verstappen here. He is really almost alongside Charles Leclerc here.
Mm.
Trying to intimidate Charles Leclerc. I'm not sure Charles Leclerc is going to take any notice of this whatsoever. Because,
No.
I mean, all Charles Leclerc really could do here is brake slightly, and Max would have to get a penalty because he's almost ahead of Charles Leclerc here.
Yeah, you can just keep that race in line and go through on that exit and then just fire it up. But we'll wait to see how he approaches it. He is going very slow and backing up the pack. But the safety car is in. Green flag is being waved, but cars can't overtake each other until they've passed the start-finish straight line.
We've seen Charles Leclerc. Oh, look, they're going over that bit of dust from what's happened with the incident with Nicholas Latifi. But great start from Charles Leclerc here. Looks like he's put a great gap between Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz is close to Sergio Perez. George Russell is trying to defend on Kevin Magnussen here. Magnussen, almost tried to make the maneuver, but George Russell does stay ahead. His teammate Lewis Hamilton's just behind Kevin Magnussen as well. Carlos Sainz, I think he's going to try and make a maneuver on Perez, does so. Don't know if that's a strategic play though, because it looked a bit too easy for Sergio Perez there.
I'm thinking that might have been a bit of a strategic play, but at the same time, Carlos has pulled away from Perez a little bit. And whereas, if you look in comparison to Leclerc and Verstappen, it's a bit of a shorter gap. But yeah, it was actually a great restart from Hamilton, and in the pits as well, taking advantage of that. He's up into 7th now, and it's a great recovery drive from Hamilton after what was a bit of an unfortunate Q1 yesterday, which involved him going out straight away for the first time since 2017. So yeah, good drive from Hamilton so far. Really making amends for what was a bit of a poor day yesterday and showing off his talent as a 7-time world champion. And now he's got to try and get past one of the fan favourites at the moment in Kevin Magnussen after his return to Formula One last week, getting points on the board in Bahrain. Hamilton with the older hard tyres, with Magnussen with the older hard tyres, but Hamilton will be thinking he can try and manage these until later on into the race and take advantage of what was the pit stop essentially with the safety car. Less tyre degradation, of course, with the tyres going slower, and try and stretch out these hard tyres for a little bit longer into the race. But we'll see how it goes out and plays out for Hamilton, because, of course, he will lose some spots. And with that in mind, you might see a few other drivers going on to a one-stop strategy to try and counteract the Brit to stop him advancing through the field. But at the moment, Magnussen holding at bay, showing a replay here, Perez
did let him by. Perez did let him by.
Yeah, he pulled over easily to side out and slowed down, and Carlos just swooped in and took the position back. So I guess that's issue solved with that incident during the safety car.
Yeah, I can see Jamie's put in the chat that obviously he was a little bit disappointed, of course, that obviously this is unfolded now with Sergio Perez, and the fact that he came into the pits all looked pretty good for Sergio Perez, and obviously that Nicholas Latifi incident, has sort of cost him slightly, and he's now down to 4th place. Leclerc first, Max second, and we've got Carlos in 3rd place, and obviously now Sergio down to 4th, and obviously all of them have pitted as well. So we're on lap 22 of 50. And Charles Leclerc is in the lead, but Max Verstappen is within a second here, so we'll get DRS in this next lap, as will Lewis Hamilton, who is close to Kevin Magnussen. I'm pretty sure George Russell knew that his teammate Hamilton would probably close up, but I'm pretty sure, Conor, that he would have thought Hamilton would take a little bit longer than this. He's almost right up to George Russell so far.
Yeah, well, the safety cars helped that, with the cars, of course, bunching together before the restart, and Lewis is on older tyres as well, so you might be thinking, I want to try and get past Magnussen as quick as possible and then hope that George lets me pass, so then I can try and just stretch out my legs a little bit and to make the most of these hard tyres before having to come in from a first pit stop. But at the same time, George will be thinking, I can try and close up the gap to Perez now, since he's had to give the position to Carlos, and maybe more points on an offer for Mercedes that way rather than letting Lewis through. But we'll wait and see how things unfold. But at the moment, Lewis still got to get past Magnussen, get the job done there. It looks as though a lot of the overtakes in this race, Jack, are taking place in that start-finish straight. That's the best opportunity, really, for these drivers to get the job done. DRS enabled this lap as well, so we'll see the back wing of the cars open up to allow for drag reduction system to take place.
Yeah, and something interesting, Conor, is that a lap ago, Max Verstappen was close enough for that DRS to be enabled, but he is about 1.4, 1.5 seconds away from Charles Leclerc now, so he won't be in that DRS zone come this next lap. So, I mean, he's going down slightly, but Charles Leclerc, he's done the job he needs to do. He's gone to 1.2 seconds, so it may be that he gets there, but I don't think he will. So this lap, at least, I think Charles Leclerc will be a little bit safe, knowing that Max won't have that. But Hamilton already overtook Kevin Magnussen before the DRS would have been activated. Not sure who got there first. Magnussen, I think, will have the DRS, so it may be that Magnussen retakes the lead here. So just keep an eye out on this. Magnussen does retake the lead.
Yeah, Lewis just let him pass there, and Magnussen just a bit overcooked it a little bit going into that corner. Lewis might have the better exit out of turn 2 and try and take the position back. He's almost right next to him, just a bit too far behind there to get the job done. So Magnussen stays ahead in 6th, Hamilton in 7th. As you said, Jack, just looking at timing between the top 4 is opening wider and wider. I think Max was on 1.4 to Charles there, but he had a nice almost 2-second gap between him and Carlos. And then Carlos has got a good gap of about 1 and a bit seconds between him and Perez too. So it's opening up a little bit in that top of the field. No one being able to find the DRS to close up the gap, as we see a replay of Bottas taking one of the Aston Martins on and getting the job done very cleanly and nicely done there from the fin into turn 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Hamilton take 2 with Magnussen coming up soon as he goes through the DRS zone of sector 3 there, but can't get past him. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to wait until the start-finish straight DRS zone to find a way past the Haas on lap 24, 25. He's closing up the gap now to that Haas. You can see it bouncing a bit of porpoise in there from that Haas as he was going through the end of sector 3, but now onto the start-finish straight. Hamilton behind in the Mercedes, closing up the gap now to the Haas, the Ferrari-powered Haas versus the power of the Mercedes car, the Silver Arrow going through towards turn 1 against the Haas on the outside, Hamilton on the inside, and gets the job done very cleanly there. Hamilton into 6th position, Haas with Magnussen in 7th there. Hamilton getting the job done. Now he'll be looking to push on and make the most of this stint on the hard tyres before he has to come in for his first pit stop, which according to strategy will be around about 5 or so laps time. But given the safety car, I'm not too sure how many laps we had under the safety car. I think it was 4 maybe, 4 or 5. Yeah, so he could stretch that out a little bit towards the higher 30s, lap 35 or so maybe, to take advantage of it. And we all know talented Lewis Hamilton, the master when it comes to managing tyres. He could stretch out even further and maybe look onto a soft tyre stint near the end of the race. But I'm sure he'll probably go on to mediums instead. But one stop for certain, it looks as though for Hamilton. Charles Leclerc, I think he went over a bit of dust there or something, as we get a better view
Unless he's gone over the pit line. Yeah, that's what Max is moaning about, that he went over the white line slightly that you would use for the pit lane. I'm not sure how far you have to get the car, how far over the line you have to go to get a penalty. I thought
it was once you've crossed over that line, you can't cross back into the race. They said Joe's penalty was not served in the pit box, so he's still got that 5-second penalty. So this is turning into a bit of a...
didn't it? But as we see, Daniel Ricciardo, Nico Hulkenberg and Lando Norris having a bit of a scrap here.
So this is a bit of a disaster race, unfortunately, for Joe. It doesn't look like he's going to really score any points today unless we get another safety car, which he can take advantage of, which is not out of the question, really, given how the concrete walls of Saudi Arabia on this track have been punishing against the cars so far this weekend. But yeah, Joe's got to serve that penalty in his next pit stop. But yeah, with the Charles situation, I always thought it was, if a car crosses over the white line, it can't cross back into the race. To me, that looked like he was only like touching the white line, which would be, a bit harsh. And I think Red Bull are just looking for everything that they can get when it comes to try and close the gap up to the Ferraris.
Yeah, I think that's very much. I think we've seen the replay of when Ricciardo overtook Nico Hulkenberg for 11th place. But I would have thought you would probably have to get both of the one side of the tyres over the line. But he didn't even get the left-hand side of the tyres over the line altogether. It was just slightly touching the line. So I'm not sure about the specific rules on that, but I think that would be very harsh if that is the case. As we're seeing Fernando Alonso and Valtteri Bottas here battling for 8th place. Bottas will probably have DRS here, so this could be interesting between these two. But Max Verstappen, I think at the minute does have fastest lap. But interestingly, on the graphics this year, we don't get the information to say who still has the fastest lap. I think they used to be highlighted purple for the full lap, but we don't have that anymore.
It flashes up briefly and then disappears.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Bottas back in battles with Alpine's cars now on Alonso. It's just showing the lap times between Verstappen and
oh dear,
and a drive-through penalty for Zhou not been served. So that's confirmation there that Zhou will have another penalty to do before the end of this race. Otherwise, he'll have the 5 seconds added on to his final time, which, given his current situation, would put him dead last in the race. But he's also out of the points as well. So he'll be looking and hoping that some things happen in this race that he can take advantage of to try and get back into the points. Of course, getting that first point in Formula One last week in Bahrain.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz now on board with him as he approaches the final corner and the start-finish straight. He has misshift and he goes over that white line too as well. So does he want to penalise him too? Didn't penalise Charles, but that's what it is. I don't think it was a penalty. I think it is just Red Bull looking for every opportunity that they can get, which fair play to them. Just showing there, Max got fastest lap. Gasly very close there to I think that is Lando Norris.
Yeah. Who's also close to Nico Hulkenberg, so I'm expecting a move here from Norris on Hulkenberg, which has happened. I don't know if Pierre Gasly's just behind Nico Hulkenberg as well. So yeah, a bit unfortunate for Hulkenberg because he was looking good after obviously what happened with the safety car, but he is slowly going back down that order. The Aston Martin just isn't really there so far this year, so they're hoping obviously for some upgrades. Lance Stroll is currently sitting in 15th place. Hulkenberg is 13th. Just not going for them so far in the first couple of races or so. So they'll be hoping for a little bit better. But McLaren are the other team that are having issues, but he's overtook Hulkenberg. Sorry, Conor.
I think the biggest upgrade that Aston Martin can get is get Sebastian Vettel back in that seat for the Australian Grand Prix. I'm sure he'll be recovered hopefully then by from COVID. He's still suffering unfortunately, which is why he's not been racing so far this season. But that would be a huge upgrade just to get him back in the garage. Of course, former world champion, 4-time world champion, in fact, get his knowledge back with the mechanics and maximize the potential of this Aston Martin car, which so far this season has been, as you said, as like a lot of the Mercedes powered cars, has been underperforming. So, but McLaren's are doing okay in 11th and 12th, Ricciardo and Norris, but they'll be wanting to get to the points soon and join that party between the Alpines and Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, as we're seeing Pierre Gasly, who I think is also going to be overtaking Nico Hulkenberg on this start-finish straight as we get to lap 29 and has done so. So both Aston Martins are 14th and 15th now. So yeah, as we say, it will be strange for Vettel because obviously he's missed the first 2 races, Conor, and then they're going straight to a track that they haven't been for 2 years in terms of Melbourne, Australia. So it's not like a track he's been used to because obviously Saudi Arabia was the end of last year and obviously the beginning of this season. But yeah, Australia is going to be a bit weird for the drivers considering they haven't been there for a couple of years.
Yeah, Ricciardo's looking forward to it, of course, being an Australian driver.
Yeah.
First time he's racing in front of a home crowd for a couple of years now. New circuits as well for the likes of Zhou and Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher in the in Formula One cars. So a new test for them. Magnussen, of course, he's not raced in Formula One for over a year, but he's had great success at Australia in the past. And it'd be nice to see racing around in the Melbourne circuit, but I'm not too sure if I'll be joining the watch along for that because that'll be 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not sure unless Jamie wants to do a 6 a.m. watch along. I'm not sure in terms of the coverage for us on that weekend. We might do sort of like a review of the race maybe in the afternoon. It could be something we do unless Jamie does want to do the watch along. But we'll see a bit closer.
Knowing Jamie for 10 plus years now, I'm pretty certain Jamie will be waking up at 6 o'clock to watch the race. Whether he'll turn his camera on, I don't know, but he'll definitely find a way to probably do it on YouTube. So yeah,
good luck to him.
I'm sure he'll chime in the comments of the watch along now if he's going to do it. But we'll have something. We'll have a breakdown or something, I imagine.
Exactly. Yeah. If we don't do the live race, we'll definitely do a review of it so we don't miss out. But going back to the race, Max Verstappen about 1.6 seconds away from Charles Leclerc as we're on lap 30 out of 50. Carlos Sainz still in 5th place. A couple of seconds behind is Sergio Perez. Bit of a gap between the Red Bulls and Mercedes, and even George Russell and Lewis Hamilton at the minute. It's around about 5-6 seconds. Kevin Magnussen is still in 7th, so looking good in terms for points for Haas once again. But of course, we still have 20 laps to go, so anything can happen here at the street circuit in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Fernando Alonso is 8th. Bottas is still tracking him down in 9th place. Esteban Ocon is behind in the final points position of 10th. We have lost, obviously, Nicholas Latifi out of the race on lap 15, and Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher did not start.
So out of everyone in the top 10, the only driver apparently that has DRS is Bottas. That's how far apart from each other they are, which is crazy to think with these new regulations. But I think that's just a result of how quick this circuit is, how quick the drivers are able to get around it. And as a result of that, they're just able to get enough clean air to separate themselves from one another, apart from Alonso trying to get away from Valtteri Bottas. Interestingly enough, earlier on team radio, Lewis Hamilton said that his tyres are still okay. The master, when it comes to keeping his tyres fresh and preserved, he's continuing on, it looks as though, for the time being. And that'll play well into his strategy going on to the mediums later on in the race and maximising their potential for a incredible finish, really, for Hamilton after what was a bit of a poor qualifying yesterday. Hulkenberg radio, I imagine that's to say, what's going on. Did you say he's pitted yet, Hulkenberg? I'm not too sure. I think he might have. I'll have to double check.
No.
He has pitted, hasn't he? He pitted on. Yeah, it's saying on this timing screen that I got that he did pit.
All right.
But maybe yours is correct and mine is inaccurate. But at the moment it says only Lewis and Kevin Magnussen haven't pitted on my timing screen.
Yeah, I've got Hamilton and Magnussen haven't pitted, but it still says 0 for Hulkenberg as well. So it does seem a bit strange, but he has fallen back a little bit. But they've just said on the team radio that we're hoping for another safety car, so they're trying to keep him out as long as possible. But I mean, obviously anything's possible here.
Yeah.
But
you can't bank on a safety car happening, but it is quite high. It's quite high in happening with this circuit, given how the concrete walls are unforgiving for any driver that makes the slightest error, as we've seen a lot throughout the weekend. But at the moment, Carlos Sainz is got a big gap between him and Verstappen. And now Verstappen looking to close that gap up onto Charles Leclerc, who's leading the race and has arguably been the biggest benefactor of the safety car.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, just going back to, obviously, because the gap's still about 1.4 seconds for Leclerc and Verstappen, so Verstappen at the minute won't have DRS going down that start-finish straight. But just quick mention on terms of Valtteri Bottas, Conor, he looks so much more confident this season, doesn't he? I mean, obviously, we're getting a lot of footage between him and Alonso at the moment as well, but it's just so easy, really, isn't it? Just give him a 2-year contract. He feels a lot more confident, and he's putting in some great performances. Obviously, a good performance last weekend in Bahrain, still keeping his position positions to get to Q3 in all the race. Obviously, he did it in his whole career at Mercedes, and that's still continuing at Alfa Romeo as well. But just looks a lot more confident in this Alfa Romeo this season compared to what we've seen at Mercedes.
Yeah, it definitely looks like there's like less pressure on him. And as a result of that, he's exceeding expectations at Alfa Romeo, who, if they were told, we'll get like, just 3 points maybe from the opening weekend, then that would be great. But Bottas, he's climbing high in the grid and really exceeding expectations in that Alfa Romeo. So fantastic to see that from him, and a good job from him so far this season. And the whole team, Fred Vasseur will be very happy with his signing over in replacement of Kimi Räikkönen. Really, getting the job done there, fin for fin, like for like, fin for fin. But Bottas is doing a brilliant job in that Alfa Romeo so far.
Yeah. We're on lap 33, so I have ended the poll that we had up before the start of the race. 500 votes on that, so thank you so much for putting your vote in, or 501. So Conor was that extra one vote. And it's pretty easy, Conor. I mean, 54% are saying your man Charles Leclerc here. We've got 23% Max Verstappen, 17% Sergio Perez. I'm guessing that was before the safety car issues for Perez. Carlos Sainz with 4%. But yeah, Charles Leclerc with over half the votes there, 54%.
Yeah, and he's actually losing a bit of time now, actually, to Max. 200ths of a second on the last lap. 200ths of a second over the past 3 laps. Sorry, I missed that red data incorrectly. As now we have Alonso closing up onto Kevin Magnussen for 7th position.
Magnussen hasn't pitted yet either, so this probably is a little bit of only a matter of time for Fernando Alonso. Surely you would think Magnussen's done a great stint so far on these hard compound tyres, but yeah, you think Fernando with the fresher hard compounds, should be a little bit better for him to make that overtake. But
yeah, we're going to see Magnussen and Lewis pit soon, I imagine, from the hards onto the softs, but it'll be. We'll have to wait and see if any of the guys that have already pitted onto the hards decide perhaps maybe the tyre is pulling away a little bit in terms of times, and if it's more beneficial for them to move on to the mediums, which by come near the end of the race will be the fresher tyre, the quicker tyre as well, and maybe that will help them gain positions for potential bigger points hauls near the end of the race as we approach that final bit, those final 15 laps. It's not long of this race to go. It's not been as delayed as what I thought it might have been, but then again, we've still got only 15 laps to go. Anything could happen in that final 15.
Absolutely.
We've not yet had a red flag this season so far, Jack.
No.
But then again, it's only been 2 races. So,
yeah, and then obviously we had a couple of red flags in qualifying yesterday. Fernando Alonso gets the manoeuvre done on Kevin Magnussen, so he is up to 7th place. But yeah, Jamie, I think, almost had a longer stream than an actual Formula One race yesterday, with obviously the couple of red flags that took place in there. But like we say, it's nice to hear that Mick Schumacher is there in the garage, with the Haas crew, and obviously had everything checked and everything was okay from yesterday's incident. But as we see, Fernando Alonso making that manoeuvre on Kevin Magnussen once again. Just seeing on the replays there, just Alonso just checking that Magnussen wasn't coming back down. But as you see, Perez literally doing what you would do on the Formula One game, and just cut the corner slightly, hoping that the stewards in the game won't see. But yeah, Perez just couldn't make the brakes there and just took it off slightly. But that'll just be him just backing off on the lap time just to make sure he doesn't gain an advantage. As we see both McLarens of Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris, 11th and 12th at the minute, just riding around on their own, Conor, a little bit here.
Yeah, they want to try and get at least one of those McLarens or both of them into the points, but it doesn't look like they're any close to Ocon to try and overtake him. And they've got Gasly not too far behind them. Ricciardo's gap to Ocon actually is about 4 seconds. So yeah, it's pretty much a battle between these guys for who can be top of the outside of the points, which it's not really a position that you want to be in. You want to be in the points. Ooh. And Magnussen there getting the job back done on Alonso. So switching places already after just one lap. As Alonso is going a bit slow there. He's slowing down a little bit. Is this a retirement potentially for Alonso? Has something happened to that Alpine? It's not looking great for the Spaniard as he slides around, or doesn't slide around, but slowly goes around the circuit. And this is not great for Alpine and for Alonso. He's got no power. He's saying he's got no power, but he's trying to make his way around the circuit as they try and fix the issue.
Very slow in a very fast-paced circuit, Conor. He's trying to look in the mirrors and making sure he doesn't hit anybody. But
yeah, I mean, it's not good for Otmar there. Heads in his hands. Not good for Alpine after, the battling earlier on. It's not really paid off for him as Magnussen's managed to regain position. And Bottas is right there as well, ahead of Ocon. So it's not really paid off for him, that battle.
Yeah, that there's a message on the screen as he was defending for Magnussen, and it just was flashing in big letters saying "cool the car." So whether that was an overheating issue, but he was ahead of Magnussen, so he had clean air a little bit. So I'm not sure, what's happened there, but a little bit gutting for him. But as we said, Conor, I mean, if you're 11th and 12th for McLaren, you just need to be in that place in case anything happens, and it has done exactly that. Lando Norris is up to 9th now.
Yeah, Bottas has actually come in as well
Daniel
onto
Ricciardo's
a set
slow.
of medium tyres. Daniel Ricciardo is slow, as you said. Daniel Ricciardo trudging along towards the pit entry. It doesn't look like he's going to make it there, unfortunately. He's going very slow.
Yeah.
And even if he does stop, of course, that's right in front of the pit lane. That'll be another safety car at the very least. Another bad weekend for McLaren. Norris, though, up into 9th. As a result of these two retirements. He's not even going to make
it to the pit lane, Conor.
And Ricciardo is going to stop just the front of the pit entry.
Safety car.
Another bad weekend for him. And that has to be another safety car because it's going to be very unsafe there for at least a virtual safety car because it's going to be very unsafe for the marshals to get out onto the track to roll that car. So a virtual safety car at the very least, I imagine. Bottas is in the pits.
Bottas is out, I think.
And Bottas is out as well. He did initially go onto the medium tyre, it said, but now they've got his car on the rollers, and he's been pushed into the garage. So we've had another couple of retirements already into this race. We had non-starters, of course, from Mick Schumacher due to his crash yesterday in qualifying. We had Tsunoda with engine problems making his way around to the grid. We had Latifi crashing into the wall. We've now had Ricciardo stopping before the pit entry. We've had Bottas being pushed back into the pits, and Alonso is now into... that's Magnussen into the pits here, making an advantage of the yellow flag in Sector 3. But no safety car so far yet.
What's interesting, Conor, I don't want to interrupt, but Daniel Ricciardo is technically in the pit lane entry, so it's surprising that they've actually kept the pit lane open, really.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Slow pit stop there for Magnussen. He's got the medium tyres on. Alonso is still in this race, virtual safety car now, so the cars will slow down. Aston Martin getting ready to pit here. It is Hulkenberg into the pits onto the medium tyres, and now pit entry is closed. So there we go. Two teams taking advantage there of the pit lane slowly being closed, as now Alonso looking to make his way in, and this might be the reason why it's been closed, because Alonso is going slowly into the pit lane. Virtual safety car. Now Alonso has stopped, so that will be another safety car, I imagine, for certain, a full safety car to get these cars off track.
Yeah.
Hamilton surprisingly still hasn't pitted, and now the pit lane has blocked. So this is not good for Hamilton, because he would have liked to have pitted under the safety car.
Yeah.
At the very least, still on the hard tyre, still he's yet to pit, and he's not going to be able to take advantage of the slower pace of the cars going around the circuit. We're getting a replay here of Daniel Ricciardo, and looking at his driver's screen. He didn't have any steering whatsoever, lost the steering, lost the power steering, clutch went in as well, and just lost all power to the car there. So he's out, and Hamilton just gutted there. He could have gone in there, actually, because the pit lane was still open, but then Mercedes decided to keep him out and say carry on past us and stay out for a little bit longer.
Oh, they were trying to get into box, and he said it was too late. They said the call as he was going past the pit entry. It wasn't close enough. But I think he might have got in there, to be honest. But they're checking. What they are is they're checking Nico Hülkenberg, because obviously he came in, but the message flashed up of pit entry closed. So whether Hülkenberg came in just before that message is something to keep an eye on. But I think the Haas, as you say, of Magnussen, what a perfect timing, because they did come in before anything came up. So great job from the Haas there. But it was a bit strange that, obviously Fernando Alonso was a little bit further ahead, but still he was in the white lines, Daniel Ricciardo's McLaren, of the pit entry. So yeah, bit of a strange decision.
Pit entry still closed. But as long as the full safety car isn't out, the cars don't have to bunch up. They just have to go slow. They have to go 40% racing speed. So it still would be a good time for Hamilton to pit, but the pit lane isn't open at the moment. He comes on the team radio here.
I mean, luckily for Hamilton, if they go full safety car, he is probably messed up, to be honest. But because it's virtual, they're not. Yeah, sorry. That was just. I thought they were going to say Hamilton's got a penalty then, but he's got. If it was a full safety car, then they'd all be bunched up. So if he had to go in the pits, he would obviously be at the back. But virtual safety car, he's still got the gaps to, once the pit entries open again, he might be able to get in there. But what he doesn't want is a full safety car. But I think they're already moving them, so they should be absolutely fine of that. But
with the position that we're in the race as well, 10 laps to go. Do you think he could go on soft tyres?
It's
or do you think the tyre degradation has been too much for the soft tyres over the weekend?
It's definitely a possibility, but I think the soft compound tyres, especially for Ferrari, I'm not sure about Mercedes, but the degradation actually got better for Carlos Sainz. He was preferring to go on to older soft tyres in qualifying. So, whether that actually does take place, I'm not sure about Mercedes' performance on the soft compound tyre, but maybe he gets the end on them, but they might not risk it and just go on to mediums. But
yeah, Hamilton goes past the pit entrance. Pit lane still closed, of course. If you remember back to Monza a couple of years ago now, 2020, when he illegally went into the pit lane, he got a penalty for it. So we want a repeat of that, because not only would it will be a bit more costly today because it will cost points for Mercedes there. George Russell still performing well up in fifth, outside of the main battles between the top four. Charles still in first. Magnussen now, he'll have a tough task ahead of him with the medium tyres to try and jump ahead of the pack and get back into the points for Haas. Hülkenberg on the medium tyre as well. We're looking to try and do the same kind of strategy, but everyone else was too late to pit before the pit lane was closed due to the positions of the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo and the Alpine of Fernando Alonso. As Charles Leclerc goes around the final corner once more, we'll get to see if the pit lane is open again due to the signage on the right, and still got crosses there, so that means the pit lane is still closed for now. No cars are allowed to come in, and we've got 10 laps to go in the race as the marshals are still trying to get rid of the Alpine there, but now this virtual safety car is ending, so we'll go back to full racing soon. And of course, under the virtual safety car rules, they don't have to cross the start finish line. It just goes green flag, and we are green flagging again. So Alonso car's been cleared. Charles Leclerc fires away, as does Verstappen, and Hamilton's on the team radio here.
Yeah, Hamilton's lost that potential of the virtual safety car though, so they're all going to be back up to full speed. So I'm just waiting to see when the pit entries open again, as it comes up on the screen now. So Hamilton will come in as soon as possible. So I think he will be coming in. He says in the pit now, so here he is. It's on a medium set of compound tyres. A little bit slow, Conor.
Yeah, not good pit stop there. 3.9 seconds. Of course, with these new regulations, there's larger tyres for the.
Oh, he's losing places.
Out just behind Kevin Magnussen, so it's not too bad of a pit stop, but he would have wanted to be ahead of Magnussen and take advantage of the guys on the hard tyres ahead of him, not competing against a fellow driver on the same strategy of him on the medium tyres coming near the end of the race. So it's going to be a bit of a tough battle there. We already saw Hamilton battling away with Magnussen on the hard compound tyres earlier on in the race. But now we're going to see a battle potentially between the top two, with Verstappen closing the gap up onto Charles Leclerc as they approach the first corner. And Verstappen is flying down the first straight. He comes to the first corner, still behind him though. The Ferrari stays ahead. Charles Leclerc pushing fourth in the first place still. Max Verstappen behind in second, but the gap is closing between the two drivers.
Yeah, and we've not really seen a battle between the top two. It's not been this close for a while. So obviously coming out of the virtual safety car, Max Verstappen looks like he's had a better advantage of that. Maybe better at warming the tyres up. But yeah, it's under a second. Max Verstappen looked a bit wobbly there as he was going through the first sector, trying to keep in the air of the Ferrari. So he has got a little bit of time here. He looks like he's lost a little bit of time, but still looking pretty good, Conor, considering this. We wouldn't really been talking about the top place really. Leclerc looked a bit in dreamland, to be honest, for the last couple of laps or so.
Yeah, he had a bit of a wobble there coming out of the I think it was turn 3. He just lost it a little bit, and you can see he turned his wheel to counteract that wobble. But time is time. Would have lost a crucial couple of tenths of a second there against Charles.
And this could be the move, Conor, because he'll have DRS here. Is he going to make the move before it? He is.
Well, Charles is already charging up his ERS, and we already saw what happened last week, with the switcheroos between the two drivers. Is now Charles is going to get the DRS coming down the start-finish straight. He's already right behind Max Verstappen as he looks to push past him, and he gets the job easily done before the first corner. But will Max break leg as he did in Bahrain? No, Charles blocks him off and gets the job done there, Charles. But Max has got the better exit coming out of turn 2. Can he retake the first position? But it looks as though he's looking for a move there, but he can't quite get the job done going to turn 3, 4, and 5. Charles stays ahead, but we've already seen this story unfold in the first race, and it looks as though we're getting a sequel already in the second in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and obviously like Leclerc, what he did, as we did in Bahrain, just held back before the DRS line and just knew it would be a little bit easier if he went to go and overtake Max Verstappen once again. So it is a bit of a risk when you let the other guy through to try and get the DRS, but paid off once again for Charles Leclerc. I don't think Max Verstappen's that type. He just wants to get the overtake done as soon as possible. So it'll be interesting how it works out in this next one. Will Max yield a little bit and wait for that DRS? He's just, he looks like he's just over that second mark at the minute, so Max will have to catch up a bit. But Sergio Perez, while we've been discussing that, has got the fastest lap of the race, and Lewis Hamilton's gone up to 11th place, so keep an eye on that. He may still get in the points yet.
Yeah, Magnussen in the points, just showing the potential of the medium tyre. So it looks as though Lewis will get into the points eventually as Max Verstappen looks for an overtake on Charles Leclerc, and he slowed down the result. He knew the DRS line was coming up. We saw what happened last season between him and Lewis Hamilton, but now it looks as though Charles has tried to play the same game with the Dutch driver, and Max has not managed to take advantage of that DRS as Charles Leclerc stays ahead going through turns 1 and 2. Max is though playing games once more. I think he's on the team radio again talking about Charles going over the pit lane entry line once more, maybe, because he did go over that line. I think it was a bit more solid of the case there than what he had earlier on, where the Ferrari's tyres was only just touching the line. This time around, though, I think Charles was quite far ahead of the pit line there. As now they both look to try and get the DRS line. You could see lock up there from both drivers as they approached the line, more so from Max on the inside. Max managing to get the DRS, but not managing to capitalize on it. But we'll sure enough get another view of it later on in the race as they go around once more.
But if I look at that replay, Conor, both of them locked up, but the way Charles Leclerc managed to put the power down immediately and just got that advantage, even though he had the DRS, Max Verstappen couldn't keep up.
And the more these two play games with one another, the better chance it comes for Perez to hang on to that fastest lap, and for Sainz as well to try and maybe catch up with them and get involved. But clock's running out, time's running out for the drivers, 6 laps to go. But this is great battling at the front. Max is going to get DRS this time around. No games of lockup there before the DRS line. So it's going to be Max on the start-finish straight as the back wing opens up and the Red Bull looks to close up the gap to the Ferrari as they approach turn one. Charles Leclerc, though, however, this time around is very comfortable ahead. Will Max break late as a result? No, he can't get the gap in time. Charles Leclerc stays ahead as they go through turn two. And it looks as though Charles may be able to start open up a little bit of a gap. But we know how the cars have been able to follow each other so far this season. As we show a replay here of Lewis Hamilton trying to overtake Lance Stroll and get into the points. Lance Stroll keeping Hamilton at bay. That looked as though it was clean racing there from both drivers. Great stuff. But we're already seeing how the medium tyre is paying off for Lewis Hamilton and Magnussen as well further up the road.
Yeah, good manoeuvre from Lance Stroll there. Obviously desperate for that final point for Aston Martin. Any point will do at this point for Aston Martin, who've struggled to the beginning of this season. But I think it's only a matter of time before Lewis Hamilton, on them fresher tyres, makes that move on Lance Stroll. But great defending otherwise. Gap between Leclerc and Verstappen, about 1.2 seconds, about 5 laps to go now. So we have put drive of the day out on our poll. So obviously, please get your votes in for that, and we'll see who gets that drive of the day. Just over a second now. I think Max should still get that because it looks like he's closing in on him. So I think Max Verstappen should get that, as he is now under a second as we get to that line. Oh, Leclerc had a little bit of a wobble there, Conor. That might be a little bit of an issue for him. But again, even with that bit of a wobble, the Ferrari manages to put that power down.
Yeah. Max Verstappen putting the power down as well with the DRS, and Charles is having to do a bit of defensive work there as Max almost got the job done, and now they are right next to one another as they go through turns 2 and 3. But Max still behind the Ferrari, but he is closing up the gap to Charles for the lead of the race as we are on lap 46. 4 laps to go in this one. It's going to be a very tight finish, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit. I mean, obviously we've got some good midfield racing, but we haven't had anything really at the front, and it's great that we're getting the final few laps here as we're seeing it, as Max Verstappen just loses it a little slightly. It goes for a little bit of a wobble as we go after the first turn. So yeah, a great car control there for Max Verstappen to keep it in. But again, Leclerc had a bit of a one as well going onto the final corner before the start-finish straight. So both drivers giving it absolutely everything here, and I can't tell you who's going to win this race. They're that close at the moment. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Charles Leclerc, I think, has the measure of Max Verstappen at the moment, but Verstappen, Conor, closing and closing as we're getting to this point. It looks like he's going to be pretty close as we get to this DRS detection point for the start-finish straight on the next lap.
Yeah, but are they going to play the mind games again? You know, breaking
Verstappen holding back.
DRS. Verstappen already holding back, as you can see on the replay.
Yeah.
Sorry, not on the replay, on the live feed. And he's right behind him now as they go down the start-finish straight. So this will be an opportunity here for Max to take him. And it looks as though he is going to get the job done very cleanly and nicely done into the first corner. Charles, though, now this time around will have to do the work to get it done on the next lap as now they go through turn 3. Oh, Charles cutting the corner there a little bit. Still stays in second place, but Max Verstappen ahead. So now it's Charles' turn to do the chasing throughout the remaining 3 laps of the race. Max Verstappen into the lead, charging up his ERS as well for the final couple of laps. And all the work now to win this race has to be done by Charles. Max in the lead with 3 laps to go. Yeah,
that was definitely Max learning from what was happening with Charles Leclerc. He saw, Charles Leclerc was just holding back on that DRS line. And as you could see from that live feed, Max Verstappen wasn't going to play that game of overtaking him before the DRS zone, as Leclerc had a little bit of a wobble.
Had a bit of a wobble, going into the start-finish straight. So that was a good way to good capitalization there from Verstappen to make the most of Charles' mistake.
But as we say, Max did hold back this time around and didn't just go for the overtake maneuver, because again, that probably would have been Leclerc taking the place back. So Max learned after a couple of attempts of what happened a little bit earlier, as we see Leclerc again going a little bit wide on that first turn, from that defending incident. But we're going to go back round again. Leclerc is going to be in with DRS, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make the move on this lap. We've got a great onboard shot now of this. Leclerc, I don't think, will be close enough.
He's got the ERS deployed as well, but he is quite far behind Max in that Red Bull. So it's not going to be this lap on that first corner. he cuts the corner a little bit as well, actually. But he gets still through. He's still deploying ERS, but now charging it now. But Max gets the fastest lap as well, crucially, which would be huge points for him and Red Bull. But Ferrari as well, they've still got two guys on the podium. Sainz, we've not really talked much about him. Still comfortably in third place after that whole safety car situation with him and Perez.
Yeah.
Magnussen up into 9th, Hamilton in 10th in the points, Norris in 7th on the hard tyres. So good points haul potentially here for McLaren coming up. Gasly, after having his engine catch fire last weekend in Bahrain, he's in 8th position. Ocon in 6th for Alpine. George Russell in 5th as well for the other Mercedes. So, it's a bit of an entertaining race, this one, and we've got plenty of battles everywhere throughout of it. And now we're going to get another one here between the two leaders at the top of Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen as they go around the final corner. Again, yellow flag in sector 1. What is this potentially? Is this an incident in the wall?
This could cost the race. It's gone back to green. It's yellow again, though. This could cost Charles Leclerc.
They can't overtake it. Charles can't overtake it because this is sector 1. So he can't overtake. Green flag again. So that's a bit of a lifeline there for Max. But then again, Charles has had an opportunity to close up the gap. I think it was Stroll that maybe came off there.
Yeah. That could cost Leclerc a little bit, though, because that's momentum gone. He might have had the move done there. Oh,
actually,
it's Alex Albon.
It's Alex Albon. He's pulled up to the side here. So that's him out of the race there. No points for Williams today, unfortunately, after an incident there going into turn 1 with Lance Stroll cutting him up. And that might be too late of braking there from Albon, or
I'm just trying to see the replay of Albon because I can't tell if Stroll cut a little bit there, because obviously Albon was making that move. I can't tell from the replay that we saw whose fault was that. But as you say, disappointing because that is both Williams out. But this may cost Charles Leclerc because there is still a yellow flag. So the manoeuvres, as we've said, we've seen them being done on the start-finish straight going into sector 1. So this could be the end of the battle, really.
Yeah, this might be the last chance for Charles, unless he wants to try and take him before the finish line on the last lap. Turn 1 in between Albon and Stroll, the incident's being investigated. As Charles does have DRS, so he may have an opportunity here to try and close the gap at the very least. Green flag, final lap of the race, as now Charles looks to close the gap. Oh, back to yellow flag actually in sector 1. I don't think that went away. I think they just bad graphics there from Formula 1 when it comes to showing the final lap signage there. But yeah, Charles has to close up the gap. It's now to get a job done, because it might be difficult for him to do it, to pass him on the line. He's got to close up the gap to the Dutchman to try and win the second race of the season. Max Verstappen, after being eliminated in the first race of the year due to an engine failure, is now on set towards potentially winning the second one and getting points on the board, crucial points for what would be a defense of his Drivers' Championship. Charles Leclerc closing up the gap, using that ERS, using the DRS zone as well as it comes up in sector 2. Max Verstappen's on the radio here, not too certain what he's saying, asking how he's closed up the gap, saying it's unfair. Well, that might be the new regulations coming into play, which is producing absolutely fantastic racing for all of us to enjoy. As now Charles has got the DRS open and he's closing up the gap to Max, looking to try and overtake him on the final lap of the race. But Max still stays ahead as they approach now sector 3 and that final DRS zone of the main circuit before the start finish straight. And Charles is closing up the gap as they approach the final corner, but it looks as though it's just enough for Max Verstappen as he goes round the corner. Charles Leclerc will get the final DRS zone, but he's too far behind. Max Verstappen wins the second race of the season. Charles Leclerc comes home in second spot as we await for 8 seconds for that other Ferrari to come around the final corner. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz in third position. Max Verstappen wins the second race of the season.
Yeah, and crucially, though, Charles Leclerc did get that fastest lap, so did take it off Max Verstappen in the end as well. But yeah, great racing to the final one there. I think that yellow flag in Sector 1 did hamper it a little bit because it may have been that Charles Leclerc would have been able to take that. But of course, Max Verstappen and Red Bull will definitely take them points. Sergio Perez in 4th as well. But considering they didn't take any points away from the first race in Bahrain, we've still got a battle on here, though, between Esteban Ocon and Lando Norris. Haven't crossed the finish line yet. Who are we going to see cross the line beforehand? This is a battle for 6th place. Could be Norris might get him here. He lost to Bottas before last season.
I think it was Ocon.
Oh,
Ocon,
no.
yeah, Ocon got it. Ocon got it against Norris, so that's a 6th position for Ocon there against Norris.
Yeah, and we saw obviously Esteban Ocon lose out on a podium last year because Bottas managed to take it in the last corner. But yeah, unlucky for Norris there. That was very close, but great result for Esteban Ocon. And like I say, as much as Perez will be disappointed in terms of 4th place, considering he started on pole, very unlucky with the safety car, but great points for the team there.
Yeah, great points for him. And Max is swearing on the radio, but I think it was just entertaining racing overall. You know, you can understand his frustration given that how quickly the Ferrari was closing up to him. But I think that's just an example of how good these regulations are going to be for Formula One this season, how competitive the racing is going to be. Whether you're at the top or you're in the midfield, it's going to be very tight throughout. It's going to bring the best out of the drivers, I think. You know, especially on a day like today where we've had almost half the field out due to different situations, whether it be engine failures or in Mick Schumacher's case, unable to start the race, or the same with Tsunoda. You know, points are an offer for a lot of teams, and guys like Ocon taking advantage of it today on the last lap, getting the job done there on Norris. It shows that going into turn 1 on the last lap, making the move and pushing on to finish in 6th. Charles Leclerc's team radio. Charles Leclerc is a bit frustrated, but you can imagine why, because of the missing out on the race win. But yeah, fantastic racing today.
Yeah, and of course we'll still be leading the championship as well, because obviously this is Max Verstappen's first points of the season. So as much as disappointing, you know, if you're looking at the championship and Ferrari are wanting to be title contenders this year, if you can't get first place, make sure you're in the 2nd position as well, which they have done. And obviously Carlos Sainz in 3rd as well, fell away a little bit in terms of the race, and a bit like he did in Bahrain, so still needs to improve the race pace slightly, does Carlos Sainz. But for Ferrari's sake, you know, 2nd and 3rd, both drivers on the podium again, just what they need, as we see that the number 1 car, which is Max Verstappen, is in the number 1 position on that strange thing that they're doing this year, Conor, where they're putting the car in a different place.
Yeah. I mean, it's something, that's for certain.
That's what you call it. Yeah,
Magnussen might actually lose points here on the race. He did finish 9th, I think, but he might be kicked out of the points because failure to slow down under a yellow flag in Sector 1. So he might be kicked out of the points, which would move Lewis up into 9th. And I think it was Guan Yu Zhou that finished 11th, so he would move up into the points and get another point, which would be, you know, decent for him after what was a poor start from him in the race.
Yeah.
But we'll wait and see if Magnussen gets a time penalty for failure to slow down in the yellow car situation. Commiserations as well for Perez. You know, started on pole, but then just pitting a lap early, then before the safety car came out, and just really losing that time to Max and Carlos and Charles, and a yellow flag as well, potentially time penalty for Sainz as well. So I'm not too sure what the time difference was between Sainz and
2 seconds,
Perez.
I think, just over 2 seconds.
So that could boost Perez into the podium positions if that time penalty goes through on Carlos there.
Yeah.
It would put if it's a 5-second penalty, it would put Carlos down into 4th and boost Perez into podium position of third. So
that'll be interesting. It'll be a bit like that one in
Mm.
America a few years ago when Max thought he had it and Kimi walked up the stairs, and
Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
very awkward position because Max had to leave the little area,
the cool down room.
Yeah.
Although they haven't done the cool down room now for quite a while, and I don't think they've got any plans to bring it back. You know, it didn't really add anything. It was a bit weird because all the drivers just
awkward,
yeah, and you can see Charles just getting comfort from his team after a hard fought battle on the track against Max, as Carlos shakes hands with Max as well. As looks as though I think this is David Coulthard. That's
his birthday today as
interview.
well. So happy birthday, DC.
Interviewing Max, saying about respectful racing, and you know, we know these two have had their problems in the past. Jack, you know, think back to Austria not too long ago. Of course, they raced in junior go-karting together as well, and there's that famous interview of them being interviewed when they were like, I think like 10 or something like that, and Max complaining about Charles not giving him space on the track. You know, it's all love at the moment, all respect at the moment between these two, but we know how it kind of developed between Max and Lewis last season. You know, it was respectable, but at the same time you could hear the grudge underneath their breath when speaking about one another in press conferences and on the radio as well. You know, it's all respectable at the moment, but as the season goes on, it will get a bit more competitive between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the longer the season goes on, if this is what we're going to be seeing, which is something that we're really looking forward to. You know, obviously Mercedes, you know, finished in the position really where they wanted to for George Russell, sort of damage limitations. But if we're going to see a Ferrari Red Bull battle, and it's going to be between Leclerc and Verstappen, then we are going to see the rivalry heat up a little bit more, as we know Max's rivalries with all the drivers heat up throughout the season. Leclerc gets driver of the day in terms of the Formula One vote. He also got it in terms of our vote as well, 47%, 120 votes. So thank you so much for voting as well, not just for who will win, but driver of the day. Greg Livingston, great to hear you're watching the stream, Greg, and puts what a race as well, and exactly, you know, great results so far. 2-2 now, Conor, and both races so far this season have produced some good racing.
Exactly, yeah, and not just at the top between the title contenders, in the midfield as well. Plenty of teams scoring points today. McLaren getting points today, although Norris was picked at the line to Ocon. Ocon, of course, getting points for Alpine today. You know, the only teams that haven't really managed to make the most of the new regulations are some of the Mercedes-powered teams. You know, Williams and Aston Martin. You know, despite the despite so many cars being forced to retire today in one way or another, Aston Martin still found themselves outside the points. So that's going to be serious conversations there at that team as to figure out how to move forward. And hopefully with the return of Vettel, that will boost their prospects moving forward on the season. Otherwise, it could be a very long season there for the green car on the grid. As now Charles finishes his interview and Carlos gets interviewed by DC.
Yeah.
Another great race for Carlos. Back-to-back podiums for him. But he would love to try and win a race. And as I said last time, I think he will win a race this season. And it's getting closer and closer. But at the same time, it looks as though Charles and Max are in a bit of a different division when it comes to these two top cars compared to, say, Carlos and Perez, the other drivers in the same machinery. So we'll see how it develops on the season. Still a very young season, but Carlos has put in some good performances for Ferrari in terms of the constructors, which will be something that they'll enjoy. But we'll see how the season goes for him.
Yeah. I think, like you say, I think Carlos is only it's only a few races to go, I expect, until he gets his first race win. But yeah, as you say, just in the first couple of races, so you can see that Max and Charles just managed to have that edge on say Carlos. I think Sergio, to be fair, give credit to him. I think apart from the safety car, he was sort of leading and quite comfortably at the beginning of the race as well. He had about a 3-second gap to Leclerc and Verstappen. So I think Sergio Perez is up there. I'm just trying to see, because they're talking about the yellow flags here. So
well, yeah, because Charles is still being investigated, isn't he, for the going too quick in sector 1 under the yellow flag. So sorry, not Charles, Carlos. Showing the two drivers waving at each other after a well fought race.
Oh, by the sounds of it, Conor Perez is in that list as well. So if Carlos did get it, then I think Perez might have as well. So Red Bull aren't going to take advantage of that if Perez has done the same.
No, and then George is too far behind to capitalise on their mistakes.
Yeah.
So we'll still have
the same list, really.
The same list as what we had before, as we wait to see.
We said this last year, but this is a huge podium area, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's almost like they've got to do 100 meters before they even get to.
You can play a huge gig on that. To
podium.
Be honest.
Yeah.
That's like a Glastonbury stage.
But yeah, for the time being, it looks as though Carlos is in third, and given what Jack said about Perez, it may look so it will stay that way. Charles in second, and Max Verstappen gets his first win of the season, a season which he entered as world champion, and gets his first win on the board in that title defense as well, as the national anthem is played of the Netherlands.
Yeah, Greg's put in the chat saying, I feel it's between Leclerc and Verstappen for the Drivers' Championship this season. I think you could be right. I mean, obviously, Conor, as you say, you've gone into this season with Charles Leclerc there. Still think driver of the day for Leclerc, even though he didn't manage to get that win, or?
Yeah, it was great battling. Like, the only driver I think that you could potentially give driver of the day to is to Max because of the win. And, maybe Max does deserve it, but at the timing of the vote, I think it was just too late for him to really gain the momentum to get the fans on side in the vote. But, if Max had pulled off that move to go into first place, 5 laps earlier, I'm sure the votes would have swung in his way. But yeah, both drivers really put in a great performance today and demonstrated why Max is the world champion, and why Charles will be a challenger this season. Making the most of the great machinery which they find themselves in, and it looks as though it's going to be a long battle between the two throughout the year, which is great for us as Formula One fans.
Yeah, and in just in terms of some of the other drivers as well that maybe like we say didn't finish the race, a little bit disappointing for both Fernando Alonso and Valtteri Bottas, who both looked pretty good in the race. I mean, especially the Alpine of Alonso. I think Esteban Ocon has obviously capitalised on that to take that 6th position, but a little bit gutting for Fernando Alonso. He got his head in his hands when the car stopped, same time as Ricciardo and Bottas really. But a little bit gutting for Fernando because it looked pretty good for Alpine today. That they should have really, and obviously we saw their battling to begin with between the two of them, but should have really both been in the points come the end of this race.
Yeah, given earlier in the race itself, we saw Ocon and Alonso battling, and Ocon's managed to finish 6th today. That's points that Alonso must be thinking that's lost on the day, really. 8 points lost for him on the day, which is not great for a driver who returned to Formula One because he had ambitions of winning another title. It might be the case now where Alpine have to think, they have to focus on next year. I think they did have that initially in plan. It was like 2024 that I was thinking that to be title contenders once more, but not a great race for Alonso, and you have to bounce back in Australia in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, and the same for Valtteri Bottas, again looking pretty good. And Alfa Romeo have been looking quite good. I think obviously Zhou Guanyu might have got in the point if it wasn't for sort of like the issues at the pit stop and the drive-through penalty as well. Alfa Romeo have been looking good to start the season, but a little bit disappointing for Bottas as well that he's had to retire. And in terms of Daniel Ricciardo as well, both of the McLarens look like they were in that point for a brief period until he had his issue as well. well, and obviously Lando Norris capitalised because he's in 7th place, and really important points for McLaren as well. Trying to get back into the sort of fight, especially for the midfield battle.
Yeah, Charles gets. Sorry, I'm gonna get these names mixed up throughout the season, and I don't know why, because Carlos gets his podium and the champagne's being sprayed. But yeah, it's great racing again, entertaining racing, close racing. Overall, the regulations are playing well for Formula One so far this season. It's going to be tight racing throughout, but we're still waiting for like a team like Mercedes to make those adjustments and fire themselves back into the title hunt. But given how far away George Russell was from Perez today, it looks as though it's still a long way to go for the team and overall race pace to get themselves back into that title hunt. And Lewis, managed to get a point on the day, but Charles and Max have managed to make a gap now. And it looks as though that 8th title may have to wait for Lewis, at least for maybe another season. But still a long way to go. But Mercedes need to find a way to get that car moving quickly and back up towards the top of the grid and competing for podiums and pole positions.
Absolutely. Let's see if Mercedes can bring some sort of upgrade in the next couple of weeks to Melbourne. We know they're pretty good when they do start to make upgrades. So yeah, let's see if that has an effect. I mean, I'm just looking at it looks like here in the chat somebody's put Charles Leclerc will be the champion this season, Conor. So they're going off the bet that what you have. But interestingly,
yes,
they've gone Leclerc top, Verstappen second, Sainz third, Perez 4th, Hamilton 5th. I'm guessing that's for their prediction for the Drivers' Championship at the end of the season. So that's
I agree with that. Yeah, that looks like a good order.
Would you go with that as well?
I would go with that, but then Hamilton's position I think is very interchangeable. I think he could move up potentially a little bit if Mercedes managed to fix their car and get it up to the pace of the Red Bulls and the Ferraris, and then George Russell potentially could get into that mix of that top 5 as well. But I doubt any Ferrari or Red Bull will slide any further than 4th in the drivers, given how competitive they've been since the start of the season and how far apart it is between them and the Mercedes, which is arguably the next most powerful and quickest car on the grid.
Yeah, and just quickly before we finish, obviously Greg's put a question in, so we'll just sort of end on there really. But in terms of Aston Martin, Conor, you did mention them, but he's said 2 races in was looking for bigger things than what we've seen so far. Is this just a case of sort of damage limitations, the fact that they haven't had one of their main drivers, a 4-time world champion, for the first 2 races, with him having COVID? Was it just a sort of damage limitation? Get Nico Hülkenberg in, get some mileage on the car, get some information for Hülkenberg to feed back to the team, and sort of go from there once they've got their full team back? Or
well, yeah, they can't expect too much from Hülkenberg because he's just jumping in the car on the week of Bahrain and just doing the best that he can. But Lance Stroll, finishing behind his teammate today is not good, and we'll get a true indication of what kind of car this is this season when Vettel steps into the car in Australia in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll leave determination and predictions, I think, for Aston Martin for the overall season until Vettel passes the checkered flag in the Australian Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, it's not looking good for him at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I think that sort of wraps up our watch along for obviously the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Did sort of live up to the hype, maybe not to the fireworks. Obviously we see fireworks now, but maybe not to the fireworks that we saw between Verstappen and Hamilton last year with the incidents that occurred. But still a fantastic battle between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, and of course the midfield battles as well. The next race on the 2022 calendar does go to Australia, so we haven't had that since 2019. We obviously they travelled there for 2020, but obviously had to leave and didn't take place then for Australia. So we're back there since 2019. So that'll be an interesting one to go back to. Who will be the fastest there? Will it be Red Bull? Will it be Ferrari? Or can Mercedes bring an upgrade to that as well? Conor, once again, thank you very much for being on the watch long. Has been great. Not sure what's going to happen for the next race in Australia, whether Jamie will brave the 6 a.m. start.
Yeah, I'm already nominating Jamie to do it.
I think so. He hasn't done one yet, so I think we either nominate Jamie or we will do a review of the race probably in the afternoon. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching and putting some points in the chat, and of course we will see you all in the next one. So yeah, Conor, thank you very much, and yeah, thanks everybody for watching. So see you soon.